Welcome back, everyone. Now, it's no secret that I love getting paid dividends. If you look at all of my holdings, everything except for Disney here, they all pay me dividends. And what do I do with this income? It goes right back into the portfolio. I don't take anything out of this. Everything that all these company pays me goes right back in so I can make them pay me even more the next time that their dividend payment comes around in the next quarter. But I don't use the drip function that Robinhood and almost every other broker offers. And I think that it is a mistake to use it. So I'll be going over why I think that the traditional drip program that a lot of these brokers have is not a good thing to be using. And you should instead be manually picking what you want your dividend income to be going into instead of having it automatically done for you by the brokerage. I also want to be going over the new details of the Realty Income and VEREIT merger and spinoff that they had announced several months ago. And finally, my portfolio has been doing very, very well in the last week and the last month. In fact, we are at all-time highs. My portfolio has finally crossed over $40,000, and I will be talking about what's been doing well and what I think is still undervalued. But first, if you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave me any comments, questions down below, or you can email me at the link that I have in the description. And with that, let's jump right into the video. Every time you ever hear anyone talking about dividend investing, they always talk about how important it is to reinvest your dividends. Reinvesting the dividends is one of the most powerful parts of dividend investing, and it's what really helps make your portfolio value and the amount of income that you receive from your holdings really explode. If we look here, this is just some example data where you start with $10,000, you input $24,000 a year, and you have an annual dividend income of 3%. And this grows by about 6%, with shares growing by about 8%. This is over 30 years. So if you just keep this up, by the end, you'll have $4 million in value, and you'll be making about $70,000 a year in dividend income. And this is if you reinvest all of your dividends up until this 30-year point. Now, say that you don't use drip at all, and you turn this off, then this number will fall by a lot. You'll only have $2.8 million, and you'll only be making $48,000 in dividend income. So this just shows that over long periods of time, and this isn't you changing the amount that you're putting in. This is just changing the dividends. You're just putting the dividends back into your portfolio. It really diminishes your returns over these long periods of time. And if we take this out to a 40-year entire work life calculation, then the difference is even more staggering. You'd have $10 million if you reinvested your dividends, but if you didn't, you'd only have 6.4. So almost 40% of your return is coming just from putting the dividends back into your portfolio to continue to grow, to buy more shares, to increase your dividends. You'd only be making about $90,000 a year in dividend income, and here you're making almost $145,000. It's significantly better, and if you don't need the money and you can just keep it in the portfolio, there's no reason why you shouldn't be reinvesting. But I still don't like the traditional dividend reinvestment plans that most brokers offer. Now, why do I say that you shouldn't be using the drip program that a lot of brokers offer? And it's because of the way that it reinvests into the same holding that you got the dividend from. So here, back when I first started investing, these are the first dividend payments that I received, and they were just less than $1. And I had the drip feature turned on in Robinhood. So it would take the dividend that I got paid. So here I got 94 cents from 1OK. I got paid the dividend on the 14th, and then I reinvested it the next day. And I bought a fraction of a share, and then this would continue to pay me more into the future. However, it can only go into this company automatically. I can't set it up so the dividend from 1OK automatically goes into NextEra Energy, for example. I would have to reinvest it back into this one. So if we look now to things that I have coming up, I have a $16 dividend coming from JP Morgan, but I have no interest in buying JP Morgan at $170 like it is right now. I'm not putting any of the money that I make at my job into JP Morgan, so why would I put my dividend money into there? It would be much better off going into something that I think is undervalued and buying more shares of that, because I think it has a better chance of growing from where it is now than JP Morgan does at what I think is a pretty overvalued price. So for example, I'm most likely going to be putting this money into either Vici or AbbVie's at a good price, Verizon's at a good price. So I'd be more willing to reinvest these directly into it, but I'm not going to have it do it automatically. I want to be looking at what the price is at the time to see if it's at a good value. Another reason I don't like using DRIP is because I need to keep my portfolio in balance. The higher yielding companies would start growing and having much larger and larger positions much faster than my lower paying dividend companies would. So take for example AbbVie. AbbVie pays me a ton of money throughout the year. This is $27 just from one quarter, and I'll get this 4 times a year. But I don't want to be throwing that much money into AbbVie. If we look here, AbbVie is already almost 6% of my portfolio. I don't want this to be 10% because I don't know. There's more risks to AbbVie than there are to some other companies. So I want to make this a decent sized position because I really like it, but I don't want it to become 10-15% of it because that's way more risk than I'm willing to take with this company. So it's really important for me to keep my portfolio in balance. I worked on this whole spreadsheet that tells me what sectors I'm currently underweight in and what I need to be putting more money into. So like right now, I don't have as much money into ETFs as I would like. I also don't have as much money into technology companies as I would like. I don't have as much into healthcare, which I'm thinking about lowering this allocation because I already have a lot of money into healthcare. But I want to be able to use this money to diversify my portfolio into allocations that keep me comfortable. I don't want any one sector to be too much. I definitely don't want any one company to be too much. And this lets me spread it out more than I would be able to if I just let it automatically reinvest every single time I got a dividend. Now, if you're familiar with other brokerages, M1 Finance here has a solution to both of the problems that I've brought up. It has this auto invest feature up here that will automatically keep your portfolio in balance. If I contributed $1,000 into this and I had several different holdings, it would spread it out between those to keep them at the target allocations that I set. Now, I don't really take advantage of this that much because I only have one holding, but it does also allow me to, whenever I deposit money in here, it just automatically goes into this holding. I don't even have to think about it. I just get an email after it happens and I'm like, all right, I've invested more money into my Roth IRA, and I don't have to think about it whatsoever. So if you use M1 Finance for your regular portfolio and you have all of your dividend companies in here, you can build all these pies and have it diversify between all of them. And you can really just set it and forget it. You can just have all your allocations. Your dividends will be spread out between all of your different holdings. Your money that you contribute will automatically be spread out through all your holdings. And it works out really, really well for automation here, which is one of the reasons why I really like M1 Finance. But I don't use it for that. I just use it for my Roth IRA. And I really like it for that. But if you don't want to use M1 Finance, there's no reason why you can't use any other brokerage. I mean, you just have to, if you want to make sure that you're keeping everything at a level that you're comfortable with, you'll have to do a little bit more work and calculate out what you think the percentages you want and how much money you want to put into them each week and month. So now moving on from that, we have news from Realty Income. They had announced that they were merging with the VEREIT. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but they were merging together, and then they were going to be spinning off a part of the combined company. So they are merging together, and all of the companies that VEREIT owns will become part of Realty Income's portfolio. And then they are spinning off all of their office buildings into a new company that they are calling Orion Office REIT. And this is going to be happening very, very soon. And I'm pretty excited about this because I've been looking forward to this happening for a while. So the merger is expected to close on November 1st of this year. And then the record date for the spinoff is November 2nd. So if you want to be getting the spinoff shares of this, you'll need to own it before this date. So by November 1st, you want to make sure that you have all of the Realty Income shares that you want before this happens. And then the day that we'll actually get the shares for the new company is on November 12th. So once this time comes around, you'll see the new company pop up in my portfolio, and I'll have like a cost basis of 0. And it's kind of funny to just see it because it'll be like, oh, I have a 4,000% return, but it hasn't really done anything. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this happening. VEREIT had a lot of things that I think fit in really, really well with Realty Income's portfolio. So it'll be good to have that added, and then we'll be able to spin off some of the things that haven't been doing very well, especially during the pandemic. Office buildings, I don't really know if they're ever going to come back to the same level that they were before. So it's good that we're able to spin this off into another company, and it'll make Realty Income itself much more valuable, I feel like. And they also announced some of the details of this. So they'll be giving out shares of this new Orion company. For every 10 shares of Realty Income, you'll get 1 share of the Orion company. So I currently have 18 shares of Realty Income. So I'll get one new share of this Orion company. And then what they're doing for the remaining shares is they will just pay me in cash for the value of it. So with my 8 extra shares, I'll get paid 80% of whatever the share price of this company is going to be. I don't know what the share price is. I couldn't find it anywhere, but that day I'll just have extra cash just show up in my brokerage, which will be kind of cool. I haven't really decided what I'm going to be doing with this Orion office company because I don't really care to own just an office building REIT. I don't think office buildings are really going to be as valuable in the future. So I haven't decided to sell it immediately. I'll probably hold it for a few months while I kind of get a better handle on what all they're actually going to own, how valuable that property is, where it is, and everything, along with how big of a dividend they're going to be paying. If they're paying a big dividend and I have the share for free, I mean, I might as well keep it. But it might be better for me to sell this and then reallocate the cash into another position or put it back into Realty Income, because I think that'll be an even more valuable business after this merger's over. Spinoffs in general tend to do pretty well afterwards. I used to own shares of Pfizer. I sold these like pretty much at the beginning of the year. And they had a spinoff where they merged with some other company and spun off this Viatris company. I received one share of this company at $15.39, and it went up pretty well. It was up about 20%, and then I sold it around $18.26, which in hindsight was a very good idea because I sold it around here at like the very last moment before it just tanked, and it has not recovered since then. And the dividend it pays is not great. So with this one, it ended up being a good idea, even though in the future it might do well, but I didn't really understand what this company was doing. And what I did understand, I didn't really care for because it made like the generic brands of drugs. So I didn't really see the point in owning this one instead of something that is developing new drugs that could help a lot of new problems and generate a lot of big revenue if they got anything really successful. And it just hasn't done well. So I think this is more of the exception rather than the rule. Because if we look at, say, this is the elevator company that spun off from United Technology a little over a year ago, and it's been doing pretty well. So when it spun off, it was worth about $44, and now it's up in the 85s. It's almost doubled in price. If we look at Carrier, this is the other company that spun off from United Technology at the same time. It's up 260%. In general, spinoffs tend to do pretty well. I just had one bad example with one that I had. So it'll be interesting to see kind of everything that's going to be operating with the business once it finally happens, and I can look at that and that we get like quarterly earnings, and I can listen to the CEO of the company and listen to what they think about what they're going to be doing in the future. Then I'll make my decision on that. There's no reason for me to rush into it. I think regardless, if it was good enough for Realty Income in the past, it's going to be good for me for at least for a little while. And finally, my portfolio, as did the broader market, had a fantastic week. I've completely recovered from the September sell-off here, where I peaked around the $39.90 value. This is in gains. Like when I contribute, this increases $5,900 worth of gains in this portfolio. But before it fell, and I was down about $2,000 from the highs, and we are now back up higher than we have ever been. And if we look at the all-time gains, we're up over $6,000, which is pretty great. Up about 18% in just over a little over a year with everything that I've been putting in. Obviously, the stuff that I bought back here had a lot more time to appreciate than the stuff I was buying right around here. So I'm really happy with how my portfolio has been doing. And in the last week, only 2 of my holdings went down, and that was Disney and McDonald's. Disney had some news come out that their subscribership growth for Disney Plus isn't going to be as fast as what some people were expecting. Disney itself wasn't really projecting these super high growth rates because they had pulled forward a lot of demand that they were expecting from last year, because last year was the perfect time to be launching a streaming service where everyone was stuck at home and there wasn't anything to do outside. But now obviously people don't want to be sitting at home when they have things to do out in the real world, and they can go and have experiences they missed out on in the last year. So of course their subscribership growth isn't going to be as crazy as it was in the last year. So I'm not concerned about that at all. I mean, it's not a big move. It's only down 1.7%. And McDonald's, I have no idea why it went down. I can't find any news about it. So, nothing to worry about in there. Everything else has been doing really well. And the reason why I'm up so high, I outperformed all of the indexes in the last week, but I mean, 1 week doesn't really matter. But all of my favorite holdings did really well. Apple's up 3.6%. Home Depot's up 4.8%. JP Morgan's up 3%. And these are some of my biggest positions. So when these do well, my portfolio does really well. But overall, I'm really happy with how the market has recovered. I do wish it would dip down again because I really want to be buying things at even better prices. But it's also nice to see this number go up here. Despite the good returns that I've had in the last couple weeks, I still think there's some really good deals for a lot of my holdings. Vici, which I've been talking about for, it might be months at this point. Vici's still trading around the $30 mark. It really hasn't moved since I bought it. In fact, I'm up 0.03%. I made 29 cents with almost the $1,000 that I put in here. And if we look in the last year, it's been pretty flat since April. It might even be a little bit down from April. But I think that this company is still pretty undervalued, and I'm going to continue to keep buying it here. Another thing that is at a really good value, and I really want to start buying into this again, is something that I mentioned a few weeks ago in Texas Roadhouse. If we look here at the fair value that I just put up on the screen, I think the fair value for Texas Roadhouse is about $88, and right now it's at $89. So it's just barely over what I think is the fair value. So if it just dips down a little bit more, I will be buying more into this again. I haven't really bought into this in a while because it had this run up and it had been in the 90s for a while. And I didn't really want to buy up here in the 95s, but now that it's down here in the high 80s, I'm very interested in buying here. And if it dips down more, I'll be more than happy to buy more. And the last thing that I'm going to be continuing to buy more of is Verizon. Verizon it's sucked in the last year. It's down 8% in the last year, and in the last 5 years, it's only up 5%. And my cost basis, I'm down about 7% on it, and I've just been slowly buying it as it keeps going down. Every single day, it feels like it's red. And then it had this really big dip where it got into the really low 50s. And I bought a little bit around here, so that was a good decision, but it's starting to look like it's coming back down again. But who knows? I think it's probably at a good price right now, but I don't want this to become a really big position. So I'll just be putting a little bit of money here and there as it continues to go down, just lower my cost basis. Because realistically, it's not like it's a bad company or anything. It's just slow growing, and it's got some big competition from both AT&T and T-Mobile. But it does pay a pretty high dividend, so that helps make up for it. And I think it's pretty safe. But again, I don't want this to be a big position, so it's not going to be throwing in $700 a month into this or something crazy. It's going to be like 1 or 2 shares every 2 weeks or something, maybe. If it starts to run, and that would be great. I would love that. It's not going to be a big position ever. I don't even want to get this over 3%, and it's already pretty close. So I might not really be buying a ton of it. It's just down for a long time. It'll probably just stay there, and then I'll use the dividends that I get from it to put into other holdings because it pays a lot. I get $12 every 3 months from it. So those are the 3 things that I really want to start buying more of. And I'm thinking now that things have recovered, I'll probably continue to do what I was doing before. Because for a while, I was just putting in $100 a month into VOO, the S&P 500, and into the NASDAQ 100, just because I think I want to have really large positions of these just for stability and safety, because those will grow pretty steadily every single year. And then if I ever need to, say there's a big pullback in the market and the S&P falls 10%, something in here, one of these holdings will fall by a lot more than that. And I'll be able to, I could sell the S&P 500, for instance, and buy into something that's an even cheaper deal. And I think that would be something that would be pretty smart for me to do if there's ever a recession or just a big pullback, like a 10% correction or something. But yeah, those are my plans for the next few weeks. And hopefully, even though it's nice to seeing these numbers get bigger, hopefully we get another pullback sometime soon so I can get even better deals than I did before. And I want to thank everyone for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. Be sure that if you did enjoy it, like and subscribe. Leave me any comments that you have, any questions, and you can leave them down below, or you can email me at the email that I have in the description of the video, and I will see you all in the next week.